Welcome back. Today we are talking with David Young. David, great first and second segments, a competitive advantage using risk and talking about metrics and dealing with leadership and risks. Now let's switch gears a little bit and in our final segment, talk about resilience and artificial intelligence. So my question to you is, how does AI help an organization with resilience?
So there's a lot of really interesting ways to leverage this technology, and we're still kind of discovering what it can do and how we can use it. So the first thing I would say right out of the gate is um, there's more risk in not adopting and utilizing AI than there is in using it, right? Because it is going to be the game changer of the future. It is the next evolution of fire to the steam engine to nuclear power to, AI. So it's extremely powerful. And some of the ways that I've been looking at utilizing it are to be a force multiplier for me. A lot of times, people in an organization, the BC structure, this resiliency structure isn't a huge group of people. You don't have 20 people on your team to do all this stuff. It's usually, if you're lucky, it's more than one, but a lot of times just one person. And there's a lot of things you can do. So I'll give one example, like just an easy kill. Um, if you plug in to AI, and so I'll preface this by saying I highly recommend all of my peers and colleagues in this field or whatever spend some time going out and learning prompt writing, because that's really how you structure the prompts that you give to the AI is what will give you really quality results. So if you just throw generic things at it, it's going to give you very generic and lumpy kind of responses that aren't honed in to what you need. So you need to give it the framework within what you want it to operate, and you need to give it the right data sets to do things. So if you can learn that script prompt writing for AI, it's going to help you enormously move forward, and as you utilize it more, you'll get better. But like an easy kill for a single BC person, right? Let's say they're at a company and they really want to do ISO 22301. Well, what you can do is you can take an AI like Chat GPT 4.0 or something like that, create your own Chat GPT specialized bot, and plug it with information. Say, okay, here's the ISO 22301 standard. Here is DRI's 10 pillars of business continuity. Here's this data set. Here's this data set. Here's some business continuity plans that are benchmarks, highly rated, top end BC plans that other experts have done. Plug those in, and then you go, okay, AI, you're now an ISO 22301 assessment specialist expert. Here's my program. Here's my BC plan. Here's my risk assessment matrix. Here's my things. You start to plug your details into the AI, and you say, benchmark what I have against ISO 22301 standards, this, that, and the other, and score it on a scale of 1 to 100. How well am I in lockstep with what I need to be ISO 22301? And the AI can do that in seconds, whereas you might spend with your chart for 22301 on one side and going down and looking through your BCP plan for this line. Do I have that? Do I have this component? Do I have this? The AI will do it all for you and come back and say, okay, you're 86% of the way there. And then you can say, well, where am I deficient? And it'll go, you're deficient here, 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 and here. And you can then focus your energies on that. So that's just like a simple kill,
Mhm.
right? Um, One of the ways that I'm looking at utilizing it, and so I'll talk loosely about it because I've built these things, and I have working models of these things, and I'd like to be able to royalty them out to some software company or something like that. But the concept, one of the most challenging things I think for BC professionals is third-party vendor risk management, right? So like Panasonic, we have 700 vendors that drive our business. Now, not every single one of those are critical vendors. The people who clean the bathrooms, that's important, but it's not critical. We can find other vendors. But we do have about 136 vendors that are absolutely critical to the raw materials, everything we need to do to build our batteries. And so if I have to actively manage the resiliency capabilities of 136 vendors, how am I going to do it? I mean, if I did one every 3 days and never stopped, I'd only be able to spend 3 days on this company. So the way to utilize AI again is that engine, that force multiplier, that workhorse, right, for you to get things done. So you you generate a very specific um, series of questions for the vendors, that each of those questions have a time frame. Each of those questions require attached documentation as proof, right? And when they, that automatically goes out to the vendor, they answer their questions, they put their dates in, they add the attached documentation to all those lines. It flows back into the AI. The AI then looks at it against all these benchmarks and gives that company a resiliency score. Now, what that does for me is cuts down tremendously on time. And the AI, like, I know my most critical vendor, 1 to 100, right? I know them. And so what that's providing me is, next to my 1 through 100 in importance, now I have a resiliency score for all of those. So if my top 2 vendors are scoring in the 90s or something, I don't need to worry about them. If number 3 is scoring 32%, well, now I know my alligator closest to the boat. And now I can focus my limited time, resources, and energy on the actual risk, which is this third most important vendor who's obviously not very resilient.
How reliable are the results? Can the
Um,
results be? Because what's the expression? Garbage in, garbage out. So how reliable can the results be with AI?
I think the better you hone it in, the better your questions get, the better your benchmarking documentation and your rules and framework and prompt that you write for it to how it looks and analyzes and thinks. The better you get at that, the better your results are going to be. But from a starting point of baseline, when you're staring down the barrel of 130 vendors and analyzing their resilience and doing it without AI, I mean, your risk of missing something or not getting it all done or not doing it well are far higher than the AI being slightly off calibration, right? So crawl, walk, run again, right? I want to get this up. I want to get to run is where now I have um, vendor assessments from the AI from my company over 2 years. So I have 300 vendor assessments from them, and my other Panasonic sister agencies have hundreds of vendor AI. And so I can aggregate that and go, okay, learn and improve on this 1,000 vendor data set that I have now, and we can enhance and improve from there. I say don't let perfect get in the way of good enough.
Yeah. This kind of ties back to what you said in the first segment. You can use AI, if I'm understanding it correctly, to as a competitive advantage to identify the risks of which you then talked about in segment 2, excuse me, that you present up to executives. You can use AI for all of that, right?
Yeah, and if you really want to get the dark arts, as I call it in my field, if you really want to get into the dark arts, right, at that chief resilience officer, that strategic level of thinking, the next step in the evolution of business continuity as a business competitive advantage, or resilience as a business competitive advantage, is you put that AI to work analyzing your competition. What is their supply chain? Who are their critical vendors? And really using the AI to help you understand where they potentially have a soft white underbelly. And then you go, okay, when I'm looking at making myself more resilient, I'm going to target a supplier that's going to be the supplier that they're going to go to if things go wrong with their primary supplier. Well, guess what? I'm going to take it away from them. I'm going to get a contract with that supplier so that we have the first right and we have exclusive rights with that supplier. So if that competitor loses their primary supplier and they go, we need to go to this, we need another one, let's go to these guys. Oh, sorry, they're already with Panasonic. Oh, sorry, they're already with Panasonic. And now they're left holding the bag,
Mm.
right? That's that next level. Like, how can I make myself more resilient? By denying resources. I guess a simpler way would be like, let's say you're in a region that has tornadoes, hurricanes, stuff like that, right? So there's cleanup resources, right? Specialty companies out there that can bring in resources to clean up water damage and smoke and flood and debris and stuff like that. Well, of course, they're going to primarily go to the hospitals, the agencies they have to go to first. But then once that's done, the next thing is, if you've locked them up in a contract that says I have first non-state priority over everybody else, well, now you need that resource anyway. So be smart about it, be forward looking, lock them up in a contract so that when you and your competitor are cleaning up after a hurricane, you get the cleanup resources before they do, and they're left sitting out in front of their company waiting 2 weeks until you're clean, and then they can get started, and now you're back in the battle space before them.
We kind of did that at one client many, many years ago, like before Y2K even, where we actually knew we would have to move staff to another location, but it was on the other side of Toronto. So we approached a bus company and said, got a contract, a memorandum of understanding with them saying, if anything happens, anyone else, we use you first to move people, staff back and forth between, our locations and stuff. And never thought that was, any was going to be required until we actually did have to use it once. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow. And they told us, they said, we did get calls from other people in your neighborhood, other companies that asked us, and we said no. And I went,
Yep.
oh, wow. It
Exactly that. And
was interesting.
it's finding more ways to do that. Is that that CRO, Chief Resilience Level Officer, strategic thinking, right? You're going
Yeah.
beyond. So I always tell people my skill set isn't worrying. I understand where the pebble is going to hit the pond. I'm not the guy who's going after the pebble hitting the pond. I'm the guy who's supposed to, I'm trying to predict the ripples moving out from that pond impact, right?
Yeah.
So that's my skill set and specialty, is seeing the ripples before they happen and getting out ahead of the ripples, seeing the wider secondary, tertiary impacts before they happen, and thinking ahead, playing 3D chess instead of checkers, to go like, how am I going to solve for this ripple and do it in a way that handicaps my opponent?
Yeah. Are there any risks with using AI when it comes to, all these different, like creating plans or coming up with assessments for third parties? Are there any risks we should be aware of when using it?
Yeah, I do think so. Like I said, I think my my first axiom is that not utilizing AI is far riskier than using it, but there are risks there. And I think if you're, depending on the sensitivity of what you're working with, the goal would be then to sanitize your inputs and your baseline stuff. If you're using your documentation or your risk stuff, um, doing that and sanitizing it. And luckily, in my environment, we have our own AI that's internal. And so I can utilize open source AI for all kinds of stuff. But if it's sensitive in nature, I can use the internal AI
Yeah.
foundry and utilize it there. So it's a lot more protected. You don't want to necessarily be putting your vulnerabilities out into the world with your company's logo and letterhead on it and parking it in AI where it's, anybody could eventually get to it. So you do need to be cognizant of that. You do have to have some OPSEC and be, but again, the juice is worth the squeeze. AI is going to be a game changer in all almost every discipline. And the faster you can, it's like having a superpower. The faster you can start utilizing it, you're gonna accelerate past your peers for sure.
Well, we've only got a couple of minutes left. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share, either on risk or risk assessments, AI, resilience?
Um, Leverage risk as a tool to unlock opportunities, right? The future belongs to companies that recover faster and smarter than their competitors, right? So in the modern world, 50 years ago, if you were a furniture manufacturer in Kansas, you sourced all your stuff pretty much locally. You didn't have to worry about a military coup in Myanmar, right? 50
Mm,
years ago.
yeah.
Now the world is so interconnected. Supply chains, distributions are so interconnected, resources are so interconnected that the world isn't any more chaotic than it's ever been. It's just, as a butterfly flaps its wings over here, we feel it in, Seattle or something or whatever, because everything's so much more interconnected and the things move at the speed of information now. So it moves faster and we're all much more connected. We're all in this massive spider web. And just like, when something triggers that thread over here, the spider feels the vibration and moves forward. That's how you have to be as a BC person. You have to be kind of spread out monitoring. So be forward thinking, reframe resilience measures or resilience project strategies, whatever you're presenting. Look how you can reframe them as a business competitive advantage, a return on value, brand protection, whatever it is, all positives, right? Don't be the purveyor of doom and gloom in your company, coming, the sky is falling every quarter. You know what I mean? Because you're not gonna, I want people when I walk in the room to be excited about the next opportunity for us to be more resilient that I'm going to tell them about, as opposed to, oh my God, what's he going to tell me this time? Right. And so try to be like that. And that will really, position you to be a influencer within your company and beyond.
And on that note, I think we've come to the end of our show. David, thank you so much for sharing all your insights on resilience and business competitiveness, using risk to our advantage rather than seeing it as a disadvantage or something negative. You put a positive spin on something that's usually not seen as anything bright and happy, and you turned it into something bright and happy.
Perfect. Mission accomplished. Thank you, Alex, so much for having me on. It's always great to talk to another really bright mind in this space and bounce ideas off of. That's really the key. Is I always say steel sharpens steel, right? Previous organizations I've been with, it's all steely-eyed snake eaters. We're talking alpha operators. And these people, when they come into a room, it's not all kumbaya and stuff like that. It's like, you have an idea, somebody goes, that idea is terrible for this reason, and boom, 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 steel sharpens steel, right? And you walk out of that room with a bunch of really intelligent people have analyzed it from a bunch of different angles, and you come out stronger. So people on the outside looking in go, these people hate each other. No, we're just all passionate and we're very informed, and we're having these deep discussions to go. If your idea of whatever my ideas are, if they can't survive peer review, then they're not good ideas, right? If they can't survive, so I want to put those things out there, discuss with other professionals, gain insights and from their background and experience to improve these kind of paradigm shifting ideas I'm pushing forward. So thank you for the opportunity.
My pleasure, and thanks for reaching out. And everyone watching and listening, stay prepared, everybody. If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.